It's going to be an exciting day of racing here in the Finger Lakes region of New York.
There's something wrong with the 18.
No, everywhere.
Here comes Keselowski. He gets in a Kyle.
Inside. Gotcha.
And it's Keselowski the leader.
Come on through here. Come on. No caution. No caution. One back to the 9. No caution. Let's go. Come on. You're clear. Dig, dig, dig.
Here comes Ambrose way wide. They are side by side. Move Ambrose to the top spot.
Keep digging. Keep digging.
Contact is made. Ambrose up the racetrack. Here comes Keselowski down to the inside. They're side by side.
Outside of you. Come on, you got it. You got it.
Marcus Ambrose, for the second year in a row, will win.
Woo! Yeah, baby! Yes! Man, I can't believe it. Woo!
Well, he smiles a lot when he's not in the race car, but he's like a shark in the water when he's in that race car, particularly here at Watkins Glen. Marcus Ambrose, 3 Nationwide Series wins and 2 Sprint Cup Series wins here on this New York layout. And the pole sitter for today's race, he's also our ESPN in-race reporter, and he's about to lead the field off the pit lane.
Hey, Marcus, Dale Jarrett, the ESPN. You have a copy?
10-4, Dale. I got you.
Hey, Marcus, we were just giving our viewers one more look at what I consider one of the most incredible finishes and last lap performances last year. My question to you is, what should we expect as an encore performance from you guys today?
We've won the last 2 years on a 3-stop strategy, and I always feel like we're on the back foot when that happens. But fuel mileage is a big question mark for all the teams here today, so I think you're going to see a lot of guys gamble on fuel. But my 2 biggest competitors I've raced for the last 2 years here have been Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski. I expect those guys to be serious challenges today.
Marcus, our next question is from our mailbag, and Travis in Manahawkin, New Jersey asks, after winning the last 2 Watkins Glen races and everyone building hype over a possible three-peat, does it create any extra pressure?
Certainly doesn't take pressure away, but you know, to go for 3 in a row would be a dream come true. It's just great to be in that position. So we're going to enjoy our day today. We've got a great race car with Stanley, the wire on the hood, and we've got Richard Petty in victory in pit lane there. Hopefully we can take him to victory lane. So we've got a lot of great things going on today. Just very thankful for being in this opportunity and looking forward to getting this race underway.
All right, Marcus, thanks for talking with us. You have a great day, and we'll look forward to talking to you later in the race.
Thanks, Dale.
Marcus Ambrose, our ESPN in-race reporter for the day here at Watkins Glen, starting on pole position as you look at the grid coming across the top of your screen. Got some great looks for you today from on board these cars, and what we like about the road courses is we're allowed to do a few more interesting and neat things with our onboard cameras, like Jamie McMurray with our McDonald's onboard and the foot cam. Marcus Ambrose with the Ford EcoBoost camera. We'll get to watch Marcus at work from that reverse shot all day.
Okay, Temple, all I need to know, okay, is inside in turn 2, so they're going to dive by me. I need to give them some room, that's all I need to know, okay? Inside and clear, 2 things I need to hear. If I've gone on the inside of somebody, I want to know when they've backed out so I can move back to the left to get up the hill on that left meter, okay? So all you need to tell me all day is inside.
Interesting because the drivers work with multiple spotters here instead of just the one voice they're used to hearing on the oval tracks week to week. Danica Patrick's got our GoDaddy on board and a brake camera and suspension camera.
Yeah, I love this shot. You can see just how the bump stops on the shocks. You see the spring and obviously the headers. Be a lot of action from this shot. You'll see the brake rotors glowing red too.
We'll watch Max Pappas as he subs for Tony Stewart today through our Mobile One onboard camera. Clint Boyer starting on the front row with our Peak on board, and we'll get to ride out the front bumper of Clint's car through the hills and dales of Watkins Glen. Kyle Busch has our Toyota on board today. Led the most laps here the last 2 years. Jeff Gordon has the Chevy on board, the 4-time Watkins Glen winner, coming from pretty deep in the pack. And Juan Pablo Montoya. We'll watch Juan at work with our Sprint onboard camera here at the Glen. Check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy and watch all the live race coverage from Watkins Glen today with 10 HD live race views, live chat, and live leaderboard at NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy. The green flag coming up. A spectacularly sunny 74-degree day in the Finger Lakes region of New York as you look at the field for today's 90-lap go at historic Watkins Glen on their parade and pace laps, getting ready for the green flag.
I love road course racing. I get so excited for the start of these things.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Great crowd on hand. Huge crowd They just, the last cars on the road we could see about maybe 15 minutes ago, finished filing into the parking lots. It's going to be a massive turnout today, and some great stories to catch you up on before the green flag. We start with Dave Burns.
Alan, there are very few racetracks at which Jimmy Johnson has not won in Sprint Cup. This is one of them. Right now in the championship, he has a huge lead, and he could always use an extra bonus point heading to the chase. Let's look at it this way. He's a 5-time champion with very little downside to taking risks to win today. Dr. Jerry Punch?
Well, Dave, reigning Sprint Cup champion Brad Keselowski sits 12th in the current point standings and surprisingly has not won a Sprint Cup race this year. Now, he told me last week after finishing 6th at Pocono, to feel good about getting in the chase, I have got to win a race sometime in the next 5 weeks. Now, folks, remember, he has never won a Sprint Cup race on a road course, so a win today would be huge. Here's Vince Welch.
Clint Boyer never thought of himself as a road racer, and then he hooked up with crew chief Brian Patty. Things have changed. They won last year at Sonoma, and they've become a regular fixture in the top 5 at these road course races. Confident race car drivers, savvy crew chief, clean cars. Clint Boyer should be one of the contenders again today. Mike Massaro?
Juan Pablo Montoya enters the day 23rd in the standings. Still, he says this team is keeping its head up and very much believes it can still make the chase. Montoya knows, though, in order to do that, he needs to win a race. An opportunity to do that presents itself this afternoon. Both of Montoya's career victories have come on road courses, including right here at Watkins Glen, Allen, back in 2010.
Juan Pablo getting set to go today in that 42 car from the 11th starting spot on the grid. Mike? Pit crews getting set to go down in the pit lane as well, facing something different today. Justin Fiedler is carrying our over-the-wall camera, changing the rear tires for David Reagan, and having to go about it the opposite way from the normal oval track. Have a good day, Justin. We'll be watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for carrying our camera. We appreciate it. And everything is backwards for the pit crews today.
It is. We used to practice a lot for these type racetracks because it is so much different. Everything is backwards from your usual routine. You'd be surprised just how, in a groove you get on these oval tracks and how strange it feels to change tires the opposite way.
Turning right and shifting gears feels strange to some drivers who grew up oval track racing too, and today becomes about getting through it in the best way you can. Let's listen to some radio.
All right, y'all. Nice pit stall there. Should be pretty good. Everything done. And get out of there. No problems. Be safe and good luck. Work hard all day.
Yes, sir. 10-4. We're with you. 90 laps. We'll communicate real good about our fuel strategy here.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. giving a pep talk to his pit crew, and Steve Letarte responding.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a two-stop strategy to me.
Yeah, a lot of guys I talked to down there are really committed to that two-stop strategy. We heard Marcus Ambrose say that he was committed to 3, and that's been what's worked for him, but most people think they have to do it in 2. It's going to take some gambling, though.
Yeah, have to keep an eye on Montoya and that red Chevrolet. Seen back about 6 rows there. He told us yesterday as he joined us, if we saw him pull out, it wasn't a fake. He was going in for that spot and make a pass.
He said he was going to be committed.
Yes. 2.45 mile lap, 90 laps around. It is 355 kilometers, hence the name of the race, the Cheez-It 355, or 220.5 miles. High speed, high stakes, and the turn 1 charge on the start and restarts, certainly always one to be mindful for here at the Glen. Marcus Ambrose leads the field down for the start at Watkins Glen. There's Ambrose with that move on a line.
He kept his word, too. He stuck it in there.
Didn't take long to get aggressive, and I think that we're going to see that happening throughout this day. That's going to create a lot of contact.
Ambrose leads lap 1. Boyer in Truex, second and third. A.J. Allmendinger, one to watch today, running fourth.
There's Montoya once again making that move to the inside. See, he and Ambrose just have such a great knack of being able to drive these cars a little further into the corner, stay under control, and make passes, although Kenseth holds him off right there.
Kenseth, he's one that's really made a lot of gains on road course racing in the last few years. That, he's become pretty good at it.
That 35 car inside of the track. Michael McDowell driving that today for Front Row Motorsports. Keep an eye on him. He's good on these road courses.
You see, Montoya did take that spot there. I tell you, these higher speed braking areas are where these guys are so good. Montoya utilizing that right now.
How long did it take you to settle in like this at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it's generally a couple of laps that you get settled in. I mean, you get fill your car out, seeing exactly what the racetrack is, and things can kind of get settled in more than anything to where you can actually see what's going on.
That's 10th place. Logano 22, Kenseth 20.
Right behind them, Kurt Busch. They tested up here. Talked to Todd Berry this morning. Said they learned a lot in that test that should give them a good chance to win today.
35 McDowell, 99 Edwards, all in this scrap. Clunk.
Yeah, you see. Contact.
Yeah, Edwards there in that 99. He had a really fast car during practice, set a really fast lap. Didn't get the lap he was looking for yesterday in qualifying, but this should be fun watching him come up because he really believes that he has a car that can win this race.
Car only started in 16th place. And as much lately as we've talked about the Hendrick Motorsports cars being so dominant in qualifying yesterday, not quite the case. The Hendrick cars mid-pack, all of them in their qualifying effort.
Well, you can see right there, Greg Biffle wasn't having any of that. He didn't give Johnson any extra room, cost Johnson a little time having to get on the brakes. That opened the door for Casey Kane to try to take that spot. You don't want to be out there too much, though.
Brian Vickers there in the 55 also, up to 175.
Slow. Pulling out my other stores.
Back live at Watkins Glen, caution has just come out. We'll show you why in a moment. Race fans think you know something about speed. Buckle your seatbelt and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge. Text FAST to 34763 and predict who will have the fastest times in today's race. Brought to you by the nation's fastest 4G LTE network, AT&T. Rethink possible. It is possible that the engine is let go in David Rudiman's car because he's rolled to a stop between turns 6 and 7 and brought out the caution for the first time in this race. How possible is it?
I missed the shift with it and it blew it up, guys. You're not going to save it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you'll do that. That's those mistakes, and they're going to happen. And he's talking about missing the shift. It would have been going from second to third or third to high, and you just don't get it in that gear, but you're wide open in the gas, turns too many RPMs, and breaks the engine.
Now, something that we were watching while on board with Marcus Ambrose, the leader, acknowledged excellent road racer. Watch what he does with his right hand when he shifts the gear shift from third to high.
Yeah, he's in third gear right now. And you can see right there how he turns his hand to the side. That's to ensure that it's not going to pull it over and get it in second gear. One thing that's happened with the transmission technology is it's gotten a lot better as far as the car going in gear. As far as it's almost too easy. So if you go from third to fourth and happen to just come over that gate towards second gear, it'll actually pull itself into second gear. And then when you let the clutch out, same thing happened to Rudiman can happen.
Opening a pit lane. Don't think we'll see too many takers here.
I was kind of wondering if any of these three-stop strategy guys would maybe take an opportunity now, but it's still too early.
Leaders all staying out. Under caution at Watkins Glen. We'll come back for the restart. Green flag and the charge to turn one at Watkins Glen.
Good to go.
Kyle Busch by Martin Truex in the inner loop.
Yeah, Allmendinger was able to grab that third spot away from Truex there on the restart.
So Ambrose leads. Bowyer second, Allmendinger third. There's Kyle Busch in fourth. Truex back to fifth with McMurray, Keselowski, and Montoya right behind. Montoya continuing to be aggressive. Behind them, Paul Menard trying to fend off Kurt Busch.
He does a great job, too, because Kurt Busch drove to the inside turn one. Paul was able to keep that position on the outside.
They didn't give him any extra room, but that's what you have to do to try to keep that. You're taking a chance when you crowd that driver that maybe he got in there a little bit hot. He might get into the side of you, but Paul Menard did a nice job of holding Kurt Busch off for the time being.
Update on some of the pit stops that happened under the caution flag. The first one to pit was Brian Vickers from 21st place. Ron Fellows, Jeff Gordon, David Reagan, David Stremme, Landon Castle, Tommy Dreese, all came in, and Victor Gonzalez also under that caution flag. They all started from 30th place on back on the restart.
Hey, Paul Menard's car looks pretty strong at this point. Able to pull away from Kurt Busch and up to the bumper of Montoya.
He lost those couple of spots. Keselowski got there and kind of slid in front. Now to open the door for Montoya to get there before the inner loop on that restart. But I think you're right, Andy. Paul Menard's got a good race car, and he's a good road racer.
Carl Edwards, 99, looking for some running room. Mired back in 13th place.
Talked to a number of the drivers. They were talking about these cars. Just they have so much downforce, and with everything that they have with them, it was going to make passing difficult at the beginning of runs. But after they got some tires worn and some fuel burn off, then they felt like the handling was really going to come into play. That's whenever we should start seeing a lot more passing happening.
And the word everyone used to a person in the garage when you talked about this race and what this new Generation 6 race car would mean here at Watkins Glen, the super speedway of road courses, was aggressive. You've got to be aggressive.
Yeah, and that's going to be, and they, in particular, they were talking about down into turn one as we looked at right here, up into the inner loop. Areas that you look at as passing opportunities. Everybody knowing that, though, is going to make those times really interesting because the driver that you're trying to pass knows that with this car and the downforce you have, he can get in there a little further, too.
Yeah, you talk about being aggressive at different racetracks, and it pays off here. You get something for it. If you try to be too aggressive at, say, in Sonoma, you really don't get anything for it. You can overdrive the race car, you can rear tires, you can run them off, you can do a lot of bad things. But here, if you're aggressive on the brakes and attacking these corners, there's a payoff.
Yeah, they were talking about having to be aggressive just to get speed out of the race car too. Not just to make passes, but just to have the sheer speed. A number of drivers telling me that the first time that they went out, that they were really off, a second and a half to 2 seconds off, and they thought that they had made pretty good laps. And then they realized with this car, they can just get to the corner so much further, carry more speed through the center, and back in the gas harder on the exit.
See how close the cars come to the guardrail when they exit that last corner? Well, sometimes it's easy to get a little too close. David Gilliland.
And he chases it up to those alligator strips. You lose a lot of grip on those things. And
you're committed there. You're hard in the throttle, but that creating a pit stop now.
Little damage on the left front too.
So tough break there for Gilliland, who should, depending on the amount of damage repair, be able to get back out without losing a lap. So Kyle Busch in fourth, led the most laps in this race the last 2 years. The win got away from him in the final laps due to very, very different circumstances in those 2 years. How much is this race on his mind coming in?
Oh, I think it's definitely on his mind a lot, knowing that he's had that opportunity, and he's rethought things in his mind that what he could do differently to win those races and take advantage of that opportunity if he's in this situation again.
Keselowski's around.
Exiting turn one.
Right side.
That's not what he needs.
Right side. Big opening right here. Clear, clear.
The Sprint Cup champ fighting for a place in the chase, running 7th going into turn one, now back in 22nd.
You have to think this might be a wheel hop situation, just getting down in a little too far, couldn't get the RPM. He's trying to make a pass. And so that's when you get the wheel hop. You have to get on the brakes. You can see right there, there's too much speed.
And trouble for Jeff Gordon in the wall. Caution is out.
That's a lot of damage.
We're going to have a record, guys.
That's that spot that we were talking about earlier, where he's at up here. It's coming back up to the back straightaway. Have to see what happened with Jeff.
Really high speed part of the racetrack. You're wide open in the gas coming off of those S's. Not a place we see a lot of cars crash.
No, definitely not. But it has changed because a number of drivers brought that up.
And Jeff's been struggling with the handling of this car really since he got here. Made that early pit stop. See Jeff Gordon's back here, and he's going to come through the S's, and looks like he's trying maybe to set himself up for a pass. Just runs out of room. Looks like he's behind Denny Hamlin.
There's just very few times, Alan, like you talked about, that's a hard hit right there because you've just shifted into high gear carrying a lot of speed, but a lot of these drivers talked about that very area that used to not be a problem spot that could be this weekend.
Almost like he lost the front end.
Yeah,
correct.
That car.
Alan's not too happy. This is not what they needed at all.
No. No, absolutely not. So, Jeff Gordon, 9th in the championship coming in. We talked about before the start of the race, giving up a lot of points, and 30-some cars finish on the lead lap. But now Jeff Gordon has a wrecked race car. And we're only 14 laps out of 90 into this race.
I'm sure this team was looking to hopefully help their chase chances, and here they are with really putting them in serious trouble.
You know, I've been to just about every one of these races in the modern era here at Watkins Glen, and I can only think of maybe one time I saw a car crash in that spot on the track in all that time.
Yeah, and usually it's just a situation that if it did happen there, that you're just getting crowded, that somebody made a mistake and you had to try to avoid that or something that created a wreck then. This is a situation, again, that drivers were telling me about, that because of the speed of these race cars, and then, as you said, it looked like he lost the front end. That's exactly what happened. He was behind that car. He didn't have all the air on the nose. It's hard to see right there. You don't know exactly how much room you have out to running out of asphalt, and that guardrail is right there. You hit that grass, and you've got no control over it.
NASCAR has the pit lane closed. while they remove Jeff Gordon's car and before they get the field spread out from behind the pace car because of pit stops and so on. So we'll take a break here. We'll come back for the pit stops, and we'll look to catch up with Jeff Gordon as soon as possible. Bizarre, difficult incident at very high speed for Jeff Gordon, exiting the S's, and a hard crash for the four-time champ. Pit road open here at Watkins Glen as we work the second caution of today's Cheez-It 355. First taker on the pit lane. Looks like it's going to be Kevin Harvick back in 21st place.
Like Keselowski, too.
How about it, Mike?
And Harvick on pit road had an interesting conversation with his crew chief this morning, Gil Martin. He said, look, these next 5 races, we have nothing to lose. We're going for victories. We will take some chances. Here, they'll take 4 tires. No major adjustments on the 29 car, Doc.
Yeah, Brad Kay said he was already in yaw when he went into turn 1 and couldn't save it when the car started to go around. He wants them to fix the quarter panel, damage on the quarter panel. He said the car's snug on the left-handers, free on the right-handers, but he has great drive off. 4 tires. Taking a look all the way around, and he's down away.
Almirola, Danica, Quapple, Stenhouse. You see all the cars leaving the pit lane that were there a minute ago. We'll get our champion crew chief to explain the implications on the stop strategy after a commercial break. And we'll continue to clean up from Jeff Gordon's hard crash on the backstretch. Marcus Ambrose in the 9 has done all the leading, but the caution is out for Jeff Gordon, just involved in a hard crash here at Watkins Glen before the restart. Let's check with Mike.
Just walked out of the care center. An awfully hard hit. Are you okay, and what happened?
Mine looked hard. Wasn't hard at all. You know, those guardrails are nice and soft. But it's unfortunate, boy. You know, I had a big run on the 11, and I got up on them, and the nose just completely took off, put me in the wall, put me in the grass, and from that point on, I was just a passenger. So we'll get it fixed, go out there and ride around. That's the penalty for making a mistake like that. You have to go out there and drive something like I'm getting ready to drive around there all day, and we pay the price and the points. So on to next week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Obviously, very disappointed Jeff Gordon, Alan.
Yeah, you could hear that in his voice.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a couple of drivers we talked about that really needed good runs today and expected it. It was Jeff Gordon and Brad Keselowski, and Dale just pointed out in break that both of them have already made a mistake today.
Kevin Harvick first off the pit lane, restarts in 30th. We'll catch up on that pit strategy in a minute. First, let's watch the restart, because sometimes it gets kind of hairy here down in turn 1.
A.J. Allmendinger
for third place as they head for the inner loop, and Martin Truex, is he making it 3 wide?
Wow, what a pass that was.
56, gaining a spot back, and Allmendinger slipping a couple on the restart. Casey Kane looks like he's 4-wheeling it back there.
Man, he's eating up a lot. I was going to say track, but that's actually not track. That's runoff area that he had over there.
5 car running in 17th. Max Pappas subbing for Tony Stewart.
Texted a little bit with Tony earlier today, kind of check up on him, see how he was doing. Said he's getting along much better. Watched the race yesterday, is watching the race today. So Tony, we'll send our best wishes to you from everybody here. But said he was actually hoping after he watched this race here today that he was going to be released from the hospital. So great news.
Yeah, that's great news.
Certainly Tony on everyone's mind here at the racetrack this weekend. Now, the pit strategy. Kevin Harvick, Andy giving up 21st place for a pit stop there, shy of what would be a 2-stop window. Yeah, I guess the thinking there for these guys is to get the tires on now. They'll run along until the other cars start to make that stop for their first stop. It'll be Kevin's second. They'll probably kind of stay in sequence with him by just getting fuel and able to leapfrog a bunch of the spots he gave up when he made that early pit stop. So when we begin to see these cars drift to the pit lane, probably in the next 5 to 8 laps, look for Harvick, Keselowski, and these guys to come in and just hit the fuel. Yeah, just to stay on sequence. But they'll be there a lot less time than the other guys getting 4 tires.
Yeah, and as a driver, you say, okay, now we did all of this talking about we were going to do this on 2 stops, and here you are calling me in. But then you start to understand as you see things unfold.
Pushing and shoving here. Boris said in the 32, the 2 Keselowski.
Yeah, this is the risk of this strategy. You have to go back and race a lot of guys that you probably weren't planning on racing today.
Yeah, and you've got fresher tires, but that still doesn't make it easy to get by them. You have to still be aggressive and put yourself in a precarious position at times.
But you're talking about the driver and his input after a strategy call like that. For Keselowski, he's the one that kind of forced the hand here because he's the one that lost it, get into turn 1 and ding the car up a little bit. They were really committed to a 2-stop strategy till that happened.
So right there, forced him. He kind of smoking the tires a little bit getting down there. I was going to say one thing that Keselowski, a problem that he's going to have, even though he's got 4 tires, outbreaking Boris into any corner.
A little wide for Danica there, going to give up a spot. Remember, she and Travis Kvapil, 93, tangled last week at Pocono. They did speak about it during the week this week.
The problem when you get yourself out there and you're not able to carry all of that speed, then you know that drivers are coming at you, going to outbreak you. So you lose another spot to Ricky Stenhouse.
So Brad Keselowski trapped back in 27th place, Doc.
Yeah, doesn't need to hustle the car really, AB, because they've come in and put 4 tires on, take care of his tires, and as Andy was saying a moment ago, perfect strategy. When everyone else comes in to make that first fuel stop on lap 27, 28, 29, they can come back in, just top off the fuel, and gain a ton of track position back by already having made their first pit stop. That means they can make it on just 1 more stop. Right now, it's to be careful in traffic.
And a change, Doc, for 3rd place, Martin Truex in the 56. Getting by his Michael Waltrip Racing teammate Clint Boyer in the 15.
One thing that's going to happen to Keselowski and Harvick, even though they're going to be back in sync on fuel, they'll be out of sync on tires. Right now they have better tires than everybody. Once they make that stop, they're just going to get fuel probably, and then they won't have as good of tires as the cars around them.
And this is a different tire to go with this new Gen 6 car here at Watkins Glen. So knowing exactly what that's going to do, some teams test it here, but till you get here in race conditions, you don't know exactly how much difference that's going to be.
That's on board Clint Boyer as you look ahead from his car to Martin Truex Jr. Marcus Ambrose has led all the laps so far. Check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy for 10 HD live race views, live chat, and live leaderboard from today's action here at the Glen. Just past a quarter distance of today's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at Watkins Glen International. In upstate New York, Marcus Ambrose has led every one of the laps so far in the Richard Petty Motorsports 9 car. Time for unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with NASCAR Mobile 13 and unlimited talk, text, and data on the Sprint Network. Backing up what I said. Ambrose has led them all. No great surprise there. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app. Join the family with the unlimited My Way plan, guaranteed for life and only for Sprint. See sprint.com/speed for details.
It's amazing to watch him go around here. It looks almost effortless. I know he's working hard inside this car, but he just does it so much and makes the speed. He's the fastest car on the track most laps.
It's so velvet smooth with that shifter, too. I just watched, you know, he's going so fast, and he's really pushing the car harder than it looks. It just looks like he's just taking it easy.
I like watching him here this part up through the S's. You know from your experience, DJ, how out of control you really are at those speeds up through there. And he looks so in control behind the wheel.
Yeah, he really does, because that is a difficult part of the track. And then through the inner loop here, as he approaches that.
That right there, do you see how easy he shifted that thing up to third, back to second?
And everybody else is using up a lot of that inner loop that we see sliding around there, but man, he's just so smooth.
Slowest he went through there, 88 miles an hour. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
There's the gap. Ambrose to Kyle Busch. With Martin Truex, A.J. Allmendinger, and Juan Pablo Montoya rounding out your top 5.
I would think that Kyle Busch is probably thinking that he's just as good as Ambrose here. He just now, you know, is in that position that if they could start on a restart even, because he's had to pass cars to get into that second spot, that he probably has something for him, and he's been the man leading the most laps the last few years. I'm sure he'd trade that for a victory today.
Beginning to see a round of pit stops open here, Dave.
Crew Chief Brian Burns asked A.J. Allmendinger to come down pit road for 4 tires and 2 cans of Sunoco fuel. Try to top it off very well. Right now, a little tight everywhere for Allmendinger, but not too bad. Matt Kenseth is on pit road as well. Matt had been running in the 12th position. Good day for him. Started 10th. He just needs a little rear grip in that car.
Casey Mears also on and off the pit lane on this lap. We're going to have cars on the pit road now just about every lap for the next 5 or 6.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the pit stop, though, for the 47. That's one thing that was a question mark with this team. The performance looks like it's there today. Pit crew looks like they're up to it, too.
And you see these drivers as they try to exit. Once they drop that jack, such a high gear there that in first gear that you really have to give it a lot of gas to try to make sure that you don't stall it and cost yourself more spots. Real balance here, Andy, as a crew chief, in trying to get for a crew chief to decide when to bring in. You want to make sure, because you've had some caution laps here that kind of help you get to that on that 2-stop strategy, but how long do you stay out there?
Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski in. Dave?
Edwards had been running in the 11th position, AB. 4 tire change, Sunoco fuel. Very important to clean the grill. Everybody getting some debris on there.
Here comes Brad Keselowski. He said they're going to top it up in fuel, and Brad also asked for 2 tires. They decided no, not 2 tires. About 5.5 seconds of fuel, and he's away. 6.8.
So it'll be interesting to see when the cycle of stops finishes where that 2 ends up in line.
And everybody has to stretch every segment, Dale, kind of back where you're saying. They have to stretch almost every segment to be able to make this work in 2 stops.
Here's the race leader. Talk about mistakes here at Watkins Glen. The pit road speed limit timing lines have been shifted a little bit from where they were. All the teams studying that very carefully. You really don't want to make a mistake on that here. Vince?
Martin Truex Jr. says the car overall is just too tight, so they're going to take air out of all 4 tires. 4-tire change, Sunoco fuel. Otherwise, the car's been pretty good for Truex. Let's go to Doc.
Here's your leader, Marcus Ambrose. Marcus says the car is tight and needs more forward drive. Drew Blickensdorfer made an air pressure change. Right side tires going on. They reminded him time and time again, do not speed on pit road. 5,100 RPM for the first year, and he is down the way.
Casey Kane, Joey Logano, Martin Truex, Clint Boyer, Kurt Busch also in. And the lead in the hands of Juan Pablo Montoya at the moment.
Pit this time here. Pit this time. Make sure you got your first gear. Start thinking about it here. First gear, 7 greens, 2, 1.
front, in the left rear. Leave on me. Let the jack drop and leave on me.
Brian Keselowski has spun. Montoya's in, Mike.
And this is the pace that crew chief Chris Heroy was looking for. Got very deep in that first run. They're going to take 4 tires and fuel a wedge adjustment. The car just a little bit tight.
Air pressure adjustment for Jimmy Johnson. He was tight in the left-handers, and the car had been running hot, so they make sure they cleaned the grill for him. No report lately that the heat situation had gotten any worse for that motor.
That's Ryan Newman.
You see all the pit stops a couple of seconds off of what we normally see them make 4-tire stops. Pitting the car backwards is definitely throwing some curves to them.
Brian Keselowski has driven away from where he sat between turns 6 and 7. We stay under green. Jamie McMurray is now the leader in the 1. Vince?
Jamie McMurray just too tight on the right-handers, but he's also a little bit too free on the left-handers. So they're going to make an air pressure adjustment, 4-tire change for Jamie McMurray. Crew working on it, filling him up with Sunoco fuel. Let's go up the pit lane to Dave Burns.
Jeff Burton's car not too bad right now. He was running in the 18th position. He said the car is tight, rolling the middle, and he was loose coming off of the corners. So they will take 4 tires. They'll pack it full of fuel, make an air pressure adjustment for Jeff. Mike?
Max Pappas taking over the 14 ride for Tony Stewart, saying the car has been very tight throughout the course of this run. They're going to make a track bar adjustment. You see it there, and 4 tires on the 14. Pappas away.
So now we get into that point in the race where the leaderboard begins to leapfrog a little bit. Remember, Kevin Harvick was on the pit lane under the caution back at lap 16. Harvick now cycles up to the lead from 18 seconds behind. Ambrose showing in 7th position, 15 seconds behind Harvick, while we're in this stretch of scattered pit stops because of those who pitted under the yellow flag earlier. Third of the way through the Cheez-It 355 at Watkins Glen on a super sunny afternoon here in upstate New York. Ambrose is dominated. Harvick leads now. Here at Watkins Glen, before the full cycle of pit stops had been completed and before Michael McDowell could get this 35 car back around to the garage area.
Looks like he broke a track bar and he tried to get on pit road. He actually made it to pit road a lap before, but he went all the way to the end and couldn't get a place to get back to the garage, so he went around the racetrack. And with this track bar broke, it rubbed the left rear tire till it blew out. He made it just about that far before the left rear went, and then he had to try to limp it in.
McDowell had been running 13th in the cycle of things before the pit stops began, and this just after his pit stop.
It's got to make you a little anxious. You see smoke ahead, lead the race.
Yeah, you see smoke. You don't know if there's any oil to go with that or what's going on.
So he's not leading right now. They've just made pit stops, and a couple of guys have yet to make that green flag stop. Harvick is one of them, and I think he made a big mistake by not pitting when that caution. It looked like it pretty well telegraphed. You could tell it was going to come out. They went by the entrance of pit road and gave up their opportunity to make that stop before this caution came out.
Kevin Harvick, Ron Fellows, the 2 leaders that did not pit before the caution. Then it will cycle back around to Marcus Ambrose. The 19 car there of Alex Kennedy will be the free pass. He'll get waved by the pace car and get back on the lead lap. So pace cars gather up the field and waiting on the opening of the pit lane when they come by this time. Wanted to remind you that next weekend, the Nationwide Series heads to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for the very first time. The Nationwide Children's Hospital 200 is Saturday at 2 Eastern on ESPN. Drag racing next weekend, the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals from up Minnesota way, qualifying Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Sunday, next week, the Sprint Cup Series on to the Michigan International Speedway for the Pure Michigan 400. Coverage at noon Eastern on ESPN. And then next Sunday night, the finals of the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals, ESPN2 at 9 Eastern Time. the big, fast 2-mile Michigan International Speedway.
Yeah, always fun as a driver, but great to watch the passing and the sheer speed that these cars can go there.
Especially since the place was paved a couple of races ago now. 200 and some miles an hour, screaming off into turn 1. Look forward to Michigan next weekend. A lot of racing to do here in Watkins Glen today, though. Who's going to come on to pit road here as the field comes to the opening of pit road?
38 cars on the lead lap. Ron Fellows comes down pit road from second.
Looks like one of those aerodynamic fins on the back glass of his car is kind of hanging off. That'll need some attention. Vince?
Danica Patrick has peeled off for her second stop of the day. They made an air pressure adjustment on the first stop, and it helped the front end of the car. Tony Gibson, the crew chief, said, I want to keep fresh tires on her car as much as possible today. We want her to run all the laps, get to the end, and keep it clean. Track bar adjustment also, Mike.
And Ron Fellows on pit road. He had radioed in earlier saying they had too much buildup in the front tires. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment to try to alleviate that problem. A full load of Sunoco race fuel and 4 tires for the 33.
Actually, look, one of the pieces to the roof flap that was stuck open.
Probably evidence of him being sideways and deploying that roof flap at some point.
Helpful hand from the NASCAR official there, and all's good on Ron Fellows' car. Caution out, back for the restart at Watkins Glen in a minute. Kevin Harvick.
After a perfect day at Watkins Glen International Raceway, and for racing fans, think you know something about speed? Buckle your seatbelt and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge. Text FAST to 34763 to predict who will have the fastest times in today's race. Brought to you by the nation's fastest 4G LTE network, AT&T Rethink Possible. Kevin Harvick out front as we've completed 37 laps. Marcus Ambrose in second. 2 drivers on 2 different pit strategies. Hello from inside the Quicken Loans pit studio. Nicole Briscoe alongside Rusty Wallace and Brad Doherty. Those 2 drivers have not made mistakes today, and mistakes was the #1 thing on our list of what to watch for. And it was not a good start for the defending champ.
No,
Brad
not good.
Keselowski.
Yeah, he drives into real deep, just loses it alongside Jamie McMurray, spins the car, tears up the left rear quarter panel a little bit, but he's back going now. No harm, no foul.
Then there was this for Jeff Gordon.
Jeff comes off the corner, loses the nose, we heard him say, gets out of the outer wall, comes across, hits the inner wall. Really a tough day. Sounded like a lot of disappointment in Jeff Gordon's voice throughout the run.
Juan Pablo Montoya, definitely a driver to watch today, but trouble on a pit stop.
Yeah, let's take a look at the left front. It looks like it's just having a little struggle up here. Still working the left front corner. Very slow pit stop going right now. Not what you want on a road course. And see Juan all frustrated, like, what is going on here right now? You guys hurry up, hurry up. But a bad stop for Juan Pablo Montoya.
Mistakes always costly, Alan, but particularly costly on a road course.
Yeah, you can't get away with it, Nicole. And now we get a chance to see if anybody makes a mistake on this restart. Marcus Ambrose is dominated. He's sizing up the field.
The 18 appears to be the only one close, and I think he's about a 10th off you when you both are going hard. From the best I could tell. He's close to you. Maybe you're just a tick better.
Drew Blickenster for the crew chief. 18 Kyle Busch has a shot at Ambrose's inside as they race to turn 1.
I don't think Harvick can hold Ambrose off, though.
I bet he does.
Maybe not here, though.
I wouldn't bet on it here either.
But Kyle trying to stay with him. Gets through Harvick for second. Montoya and Allmendinger, 42-47.
Allmendinger driving hard, trying not to give up that spot right now.
He holds on to it for now. That was a great move over there. Hey, he went across the curbing.
Yeah.
Stayed in it.
Remember Brad Keselowski we just saw in the pit studio update. Had the spin earlier. His team worked some strategy to get him back some track position. Brad running in 8th.
Yeah, he's got some older tires than what these others do, but still got him in a good spot once again to kind of get back on cycle with the rest of them and be able to race them from here with pretty much the same type strategies.
Trouble. Ron Fellows 33, Travis Kvapil 93. Caution is out.
We're wrecked.
You might need a wrecker.
You're wrecked and you're hung up on the curb too.
A lot of damage there to Ron Fellows' car.
They were racing for 26th place. Remember, Fellows hit it under this caution.
Yeah, this has been a difficult part of the racetrack here.
Oh, more involved. Tommy Dreese 87, Victor Gonzalez 36. That looks like in the stack up from it.
They hit us from behind.
So Kvapil's not going to be able to go anywhere.
Well, big mess there. Ooh,
yeah, that's
don't drive out around.
Going anywhere before he messes up the rest of the racetrack.
Yeah, he just
I don't think it'll go far anyway.
Yeah. Both of them. Don't drive that one around, please. Please. Well, here we go.
Yeah, there you can see the oil stream just coming out. That's a big mess.
Yeah, stop. We got it.
NASCAR race control hollering to the spotter of the 36, and the spotter hollering to the driver you heard, and thankfully, message delivered.
Yeah, it could have been a lot bigger mess than he made. Still a big mess.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad spot to be having oil and oil dry down there. They'll get it cleaned up as best they can.
Landon Castle's gotten a piece of something, or something's gotten a piece of him.
Yes.
The first thing we saw happen was Ron Fellows and Travis Kvapil. They were racing for 26th spot. You see they're coming up through the S's side by side. It's like Fellows just got right in the quarter panel.
Yeah, it looked like he had that, and he was kind of expecting maybe that, knew that he was there. Tough place to race side by side. We pointed this out yesterday, and don't know how much we talked about today, but there's not much room up through here.
Denny Hamlin picked up a piece of somebody's bumper bar on the nose of his car on the way through.
Yeah, he was right behind these two.
And then things will start stacking up from back there because there's just nowhere to go.
Stay low, back up, stay left, go, watch your back. Stay left there in between. All clear, go. Good job.
That's a nice job by her. But as I said, there's not many places you can go, and you don't know where these cars are going to bounce back off of that guardrail.
So, while the cleanup of the mess begins, quick notes on the way to a break. Jeff Gordon, you saw, back on the racetrack after his damaged race car has been repaired. Brian Vickers went behind the wall under the last caution and has also come back onto the racetrack. And we'll update what happened to Vickers in a minute. You see the field being stopped to allow the cleanup to begin, because there's going to be a lot of it. And as soon as they gather up the field, I expect we'll see the red flag here from NASCAR. You see Vickers parked at the back of the field. Vince, what was he doing behind the wall?
Well, they've been struggling with the race car throughout the course of the day. As Brian has indicated, they just haven't had enough straightaway speed. He said the car and the balance is good. They just feel extremely slow down the straightaway. Talked with crew chief Rodney Childers just a moment ago. He said this morning they changed the fuel map setting in the car because they weren't happy with it from yesterday's session, and that's the only thing they can think of that is causing today's problem. So to change that fuel setting, they had to bring him back behind the wall and plug the computer in. So they changed the fuel map back to the original setting, but it's been a long afternoon so far for the 55 and Brian Vickers.
There's some things they can do with that fuel mapping to try to make better fuel mileage, but it costs power. And evidently, they thought that was too much of a penalty to pay.
And there is Jeff Gordon's repaired car. You heard Jeff say his punishment for the crash was going to be that he was going to have to drive that thing around for the rest of the day to get as many points as he could.
Well, it makes for a long day when you have something like that to drive. But you have to get those points. Whatever spots he might can gain here will help.
23 laps down in 42nd position is Jeff Gordon. Well, there are a few cars he might be able to pass now because they were just involved in the big mess headed up the hill in the S's. Started with Ron Fellows and Travis Kvapil tangled. Victor Gonzalez, Tommy Dreese, and Landon Castle piling up in the aftermath, and Denny Hamlin. Red flag out here at Watkins Glen. Give us a minute to remind you that next weekend, the NASCAR Nationwide Series runs the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for the very first time. See it Saturday at 2 Eastern, the Nationwide Children's Hospital 200 on ESPN. Next weekend also includes coverage of the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals from Brainerd, Minnesota. Qualifying is Saturday at 11 Eastern on ESPN2. Next Sunday, our coverage includes the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Pure Michigan 400. The Michigan International Speedway at noon Eastern on ESPN, and the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals final eliminations next Sunday, 9 Eastern on ESPN2. There's the field parked under the red flag while the cleanup of the big mess continues up at the top of the S's. Marcus Ambrose has done most of the leading today, 30 out of the 40 laps that have been run, and he's our ESPN in-race reporter. You think he's got a sec to talk to us?
Well, let's find out.
Hey, Marcus, Dale Jarrett, know that you're trying to catch your breath back there and maybe get a little bit of drink. Have a minute to talk?
Yeah, I was actually having a snooze, mate, but yeah, sure, great.
Hey, Marcus, we just been watching you and drive this race car around here and showed some in-car stuff and watching you, how smooth you are. You make it look rather easy. I know it's not, but looks like an awfully good race car for you.
Yeah, it really is. Drew Blickensterf and all the guys now standing doing a great job here. Giving a great time to drive. I'm a little concerned about how the track's rubbering in and if we're going to get a balance change towards the end. But right now, the race is going to plan. We've led a lot of laps, and the pit stop was flawless, and restart's been good too. So all things considered, it's been a great race now. But this race is not over. There's a long way to go, and it gets tough from here on in.
With this new car here, and talked to you the other day, as fast as it is and everything, are you still seeing these spots and places that you were braking and letting off and getting back to the gas early? All of that still happening in race condition?
It's all pretty good. Just there's less grip out here. There's oil's going down now. Guys are leaking some fluid, and there's rubber going into the race groove. So certainly there's less grip out here, but you fight the same issues. The biggest thing for me right now is just making sure I can look after my tyres. I have a habit of just driving too aggressive and burning them off. So it'll be fun here on the restart. Get some clear gap and just try to manage my tyres and look after the car.
All right, Marcus, thanks for talking with us. We'll have fun watching you through the rest of this.
Thanks, DJ.
ESPN in-race reporter Marcus Ambrose sitting on the racetrack, watching and listening to all that. His crew chief, Drew Blickensderfer, who's standing by with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Alan. And Drew, every other word out of your mouth on the radio has been save, save, save. Talking about saving fuel. You mentioned to Marcos, you guys have a magic number for fuel. How close are you to that?
We were a little better that first run, so we were happy about that. But he's able to save us a lot with those cautions. So we're not banking on that. We're making sure if he's running as fast as the 18, who's really fast, we're going to keep him managing his stuff. We want to keep him out front, but managing his stuff so we can maybe put a little in the bag. You never know what's going to happen at the end of these races. It hasn't been green, white checker ever here since the COT car came out. We don't want to be the first one here and not have enough fuel.
Marcus is thinking big picture. He's asked you to size up the competition. Who worries you the most? Have you been talking to your driver a little bit under green about who's good and who to worry about? Who concerns you the most in terms of being able to run with your guy?
It's like every week, Kyle Busch. Kyle's fast. He's fast every week, and he's really good at Watkins Glen. And that's the person Marcus has raced the last 2 years for that win. Last year, the 18 was probably a little better than the 9. And then he had the accident at the end. So hopefully we're as good as he is, and then that Marcus and Kyle battle it out.
Wow, that last lap battle a year ago was special, Alan. And, of course, if we have it again this year, Marcus thinks he's actually a little bit better than the 18. In fact, I don't think Marcus has run that hard except for the opening lap of the race since. So he's got a little something left here today.
Well, Marcus thinks he's better than Kyle Busch in the 18. We've also been monitoring what Kyle Busch and his team are thinking about Ambrose.
Can you tell anything about those changes in the few laps he didn't get to run?
Yeah, so far they're better. I'm trying to figure out where I'm getting beat by him. I mean, he's just driving away from me. I can't even keep up with him. But
it's not like I'm getting run over from behind either, you know. Yeah, 10-4.
Yeah, I think Marcus has got a good car, and I almost agree with Doc that we haven't really seen everything that 9 car will do, but I think if Kyle has his way, he's going to force him to show us everything.
Well, we know the last couple of years, Ambrose, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski have been the 3 players that this race came down to. And it was Ambrose passing Kyle Busch in the late laps, the very final laps, to get the win. Something Kyle would like to change, and Ambrose would like to remain consistent. As has become NASCAR's policy, when they have the drivers in their cars under a red flag on a warm day, making sure they are offered hydration while they sit and wait for the race to be restarted. Time to go back racing at Watkins Glen. Ambrose and Kyle Busch on the front row. Kyle slipped. Harvick back to his inside, and remember, they're running up here to where all that oil dry was dumped and cleaned up.
They made it, but that's no fun as a driver going through there the first time.
I'll bet.
I'm surprised how clean they got the racetrack.
Nice job.
Did a good job.
Max Pappas off the pace in the 14, subbing for Tony Stewart.
All right, bud. Just keep going.
Kurt Busch getting aggressive. Trying to get by Jimmy Johnson.
Boy.
Yeah, Johnson's been pretty aggressive on this restart, too. He picked up a couple of spots here.
10th, 11th, and 12th with Carl Edwards, Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, and more.
I think there was a level of frustration with Jimmy Johnson not able to make passes once the race went green. He kind of took this opportunity on the restart to get a few spots. He restarted in the 15th spot, just passed for 10th. This driver has nothing at all to lose. If they could figure out a way to gamble, maybe get a win here, it'd be an extra point for them, but they don't really have anything to lose. They're the point leader. They're not going to fall out of the chase, and they're going to carry their bonus points to the chase.
At this point, how do you gamble to get something when you know that Ambrose is sitting there with this fast a car and on that strategy?
Right there, he gambled and got 5.
Well, they definitely talked about it under the caution flag.
Can do, obviously. But how aggressive do you want me to get to try to make something happen here, or do you just want to try to ride it out and get a solid top 15? Whatever you think, bro. No help to you right now, but... Okay, well, the chance that I've got is either going to get us in the top 10 or we'll finish 30th.
Well, you know, that's a tough spot. I mean, the gamble that Chad's talking about is some kind of pit strategy call.
He can do something different now because his driver got him in the top 10, so now he can look at a strategy that might get him in the top 5.
That changes your whole strategy right there.
So Jimmy Johnson very aggressive on this restart and has picked up a handful of spots.
Well, he could use another caution.
Just don't beat a caution.
Yeah. I'm impressed with Harvick staying in that second spot there. Tires a little older than these other guys, and didn't know that his car was that good. You can tell Scrooge thought that they had a good car up front, but we'd seen Kyle Busch pass him the time before, he and Ambrose rather easily.
Yeah, I think for Kyle Busch, he thought he had probably the second best car, and now he's looking at the back bumper of Kevin Harvick. He's probably rethinking that a little bit. He's also got Mark Truex kind of breathing down his neck.
So while this is settled out single file, we saw Max Pappas off the pace a minute ago. He was running in 20th place. He's picked back up, but is running in 33rd. What happened to the 14? Here's a look.
Yeah, make a little room there where there wasn't any, and a little contact sent him spinning the wrong way. Not that there's a right way to spin, but
yeah. So that'll adjust your strategy too.
Hey, look at Marcus Ambrose. I mean, it's incredible the gap he can pull on this field in just a couple of laps. One thing this does for Marcus Ambrose, though, is it enables him to save some fuel and run a little more conservative on everything, the brakes, the car. I think he thought he would have to run so hard that he would have to make 3 pit stops, but I believe they've had enough caution flags to put them in that 2-stop strategy.
Yeah, I think so. It looks like that they might be the only thing in their way of getting in the way of them winning a 3rd straight race here.
2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Harvick, Kyle, Truex, Allmendinger, Montoya. And a good look back through the top 20. White and black car there, 35, Michael McDowell coming back out from the garage just now after the repairs from the track bar, the rear end suspension problems that sent him back into the garage area at lap 34.
Seems like every year we see somebody break a suspension part because of these curbs and just how hard this racetrack is on equipment. It's too bad it happened to Michael McDowell. He had a great run going.
And these cars hopping across those curves like that, like we saw Junior's car at the front of this group kind of leap across the curb going into that inner loop. It doesn't necessarily look like much from here, but inside the car when we're on those onboard views, you see that driver's head take a big bounce.
Oh, it's a joke. It's a joke to the driver. And it's also a joke, as Andy was talking about, to all of these suspension parts.
Yeah, you try to build all these suspension parts as light as possible to do the job that they are designed to do, but it's hard to design these suspension parts to do what they have to do here. I mean, you can see every corner they're going over a curb, running off the asphalt, on the grass, back on the asphalt. They're doing, a lot of times they're wheel hopping the rear suspension. It just goes through a lot of stress.
Watch how fast McMurray goes as he approaches that inner loop. 181 miles an hour into a braking zone.
Basically slowing down about 100 miles per hour from his top speed there by the time that he was ready to exit that inner loop.
That's a lot of energy you have to bleed off in a short amount of time.
Kyle Busch back around Harvick. At that same entrance to the inner loop.
Yeah, that was probably all set up by Harvick not getting up through the S's quite as good, and Kyle Busch having a good run up through there and taking that horsepower and then being able to outbrake Harvick in there.
A.J. Allmendinger still solid all day today, really, in that 47 car.
Check out the nose of the 18 car.
Yeah, I see a little paper. It looks like maybe on one of the brake ducts. Yeah, you can see it's got some significant paper over the brake duct, and that can be a problem here. I know you definitely don't want it on the grill because of obvious reasons, but you use a ton of brakes, and you need that air to cool them.
And Kyle not close enough to anybody in front of him to try and use the air to move it off. So we'll see if he ends up having to get back behind Harvick to help that, or if he's able to just run it out to the next pit stop. Yeah. Now, speaking of next pit stops, the 2 stoppers, Andy, we're about 10 laps away.
Yeah, we're about 10 laps before they'll have to make this pit stop. They got quite a few of those caution laps, which helps. And ideally, they'd like to make that last stop with about 30 to go, but they're not going to be able to do that. They're probably going to have to do it with about 32, like you say, 33 laps to go. We'll see. Everybody will have to play their hand here shortly.
Which is a gamble in itself.
It is.
You're gambling on some cautions happening and running some more caution laps in the last third of this race.
Yeah, I talked to some crew chiefs this morning, and the biggest, you see Jimmy Johnson trying to make a move on Matt Kenseth. Talked to some crew chiefs today, and one of the biggest gambles they said was trying to maybe stay out that extra lap in case they need it for that green-white checker, the possibility of that. And once they pass the entrance to pit road, they hold their breath waiting until they get back to hope the caution doesn't come out before they can make it.
Jimmy Johnson up to 9th place around Matt Kenseth.
I tell you, he hadn't shown any of this till this point. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if they made him mad or what.
I don't know what he did during that red flag.
He took a nap.
But it really worked, Dave.
Well, Chad Knaus has long been a guy who likes to get his driver up on the wheel when he feels like maybe there's something more to be gotten there. And he told Jimmy earlier, you are 3/10 off of the fast cars. That gets under a driver's skin. He did say under one of those cautions, I'm not sure that I'm helping you at all, but as you guys said on that restart, the 5 spots he gained in the aggressive way he's driving now, Jimmy's moving forward.
Dave, I think Chad Knaus pushed the right button.
The one that said, hey, driver, got to go.
Yeah, he's 9th place. Now, he restarted this race in 15th. It's hard to pass here.
Yeah. Kevin Harvick on the pit lane. Will this be his final stop with 40 to go, Mike?
That's the big question, Alan. The last time they were on pit road was lap 16. They've gone quite the distance on fuel. 1 can in, another one going in. 4 tires on the 29. Gil Martin rolling the dice here with his strategy this afternoon, trying to pull out the victory.
Now, the only way I can see this work is if it just has a ton of caution laps to end this thing. I don't see it happening.
But that's what Gil Martin told Mike.
Yeah,
the red
it's
flag.
a gamble.
Yeah. Jamie McMurray around Paul Menard. That's 14th place.
Both of these drivers ran solidly up inside the top 10 the first part of this race, but the strategies and restarts found themselves back outside the top 15.
I love this shot. You can see McMurray doesn't even look at the clutch pedal. Just right foot on the gas, left foot on the brake. Just kind of match RPMs. These transmissions and shifters are so smooth now, and they work so well. Really help these drivers. I think he's busy in there.
Wiping the sweat from his eyes, shifting gears with no hands on the wheel. So McMurray hanging in 14th place. Nothing new up front. Marcus Ambrose stretching out his advantage on the field. How will the late cautions and how will the fuel strategies play into the finish of this one? Past halfway today at Watkins Glen in the Cheez-It 355 for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Marcus Ambrose has led 43 of 53 laps. Kyle Busch has been right with him a lot of the way, but Kyle has picked up multiple passengers on the nose of his car.
Yeah,
that may cause them concern before they get to pit road.
He's real close to having a problem here. You see that grill coming off this corner. You can see his grill's clean, nice and black. Comes out of that outer loop, and he takes just a little too much in that runoff area. Goes in the grass, and now look at the grill. I'm telling you, that can cause a huge problem for him.
In a lot of ways. Water temp, he's going to run out of brakes here shortly because he's not getting any air to those.
So the second place car, Kyle Busch, keeping an eye on things as he tries to get to his pit window, which should be within the next 6 laps.
Try to clean your grill. Try to clean your grill.
Dave Rogers obviously just saw a replace.
That's going to be a tall order.
And he's got a good opportunity right there. He just missed it. Yeah, I guess Jeff was just going too slow.
Yeah.
It's like he got some of it, though. See, some of that grass actually did come off.
You got that debris on your brake duct and your grill starting to pack with grass. Just get a good look at your temps. I'll let the 38 know we can use him when we get to him.
Ron Fellows smoking, back on track after repairs from the accident that brought out the red flag a little while ago. And now with
track bar
broke on that car, I believe. What we heard him say, it looked like that as he was coming around, but
yeah. Montoya on Truex. So Allmendinger and Montoya by Truex, who get shuffled from 3rd back to 5th.
Allmendinger's still very strong. This team's performed extremely well today. Their pit stop that they made, it was as good as anybody on pit road. His car's performed well, and AJ has not made really a bad mistake or a mistake anywhere that's cost him.
You know, the one thing based on what we saw at Road America when he got in that Nationwide Series car that I was concerned about for Allmendinger today would be over-aggressiveness. So amped up and so wanting to do well. And he's really driven a clean and smart race.
He sure has.
He's still trying to get a job, a permanent job, and being smart. He doesn't have to win this race for people to look at him. It would do more for him actually to take a car that hasn't run up front a whole lot, do well with it, and be smart with it all day long, and that gets owners' attention.
Doing exactly what he's doing right now.
Yes.
Martin Truex Jr., one of those drivers trying to find a way to race into the chase. Clint Boyer, second in the championship coming in, started on the front row, faded back a little bit, but working toward the goal that his crew chief Brian Patty has set for this team, which is not to have to go to Atlanta and Richmond and race for a place in the chase. Get it locked up well before then go after some aggressiveness.
That's right. Get bonus points, what they would be looking at, and you get that by winning races. And we know how good Boyer has been in the past at Richmond. Whenever he's had to battle to try to get himself into the chase, he can go there and kind of free will things. Obviously good on the mile and a halves too.
Yeah, and his crew chief Brian Patty's going to take some chances and gambles that have paid off for him. So that's what he wants the opportunity to do that.
Brad Keselowski spun in turn 1 at lap 13 while running 7th. Went all the way back to 22nd. His crew chief played a little strategy. Pitted him under the caution at lap 16, then under the green, went for just fuel only at lap 28. Got him back up into the top 10.
We're working just inside that window now. You'll see some cars start making that green flag stop, Doc.
Yeah, final pit stop for Joey Logano. Carbon a little bit tight, losing some front grip. The carousel being the worst spot for Logano. They'll put 4 tires on it. Got to pack it full of Sunoco fuel to make it all the way. Got to run 32 laps to get to the checker flag. Slight chassis adjustment, right rear.
So here's that nerve-wracking moment for the crew chief you were talking about earlier, Andy. You want to make sure you've got enough for a green-white checker, but you don't want to be still out on the racetrack when others have pitted under green and have the caution come out on you.
Yeah, you've got that number in mind that you want to make that stop, and say if it's 32 or 31 to go, and you think, man, if I could just go one more lap, that would sure give us some insurance to the end in case we need it. But boy, it's risky, and here comes the 2-car Brad Keselowski.
Made kind of a late move to the pit lane and really had to lower down to get in there. Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth also pitting this lap. Dave?
He is loose in turn 2, tight to the lefts, and loose off of the final corner. He gives up that 9th position. I guess he was running at that point. He'll get an adjustment, Doc.
And these tires have been on the 2-car now for 43 laps. He pitted on lap 15 after spinning early. Came back and topped it off with fuel. It'll be 4 tires. Brad says the car is a little free off the right-hand turns. Air pressure change, no chassis adjustment. Again, they got to pack it full, and he's away less than 15 seconds.
Something's just happened to A.J. Allmendinger's 47 car. He's slow and losing positions. Follow up on that in a minute. There's the 47.
Ah, that's too bad. Hope we didn't jinx him.
He was 3rd. You see all the cars that are going by. Oh, boy. Second place, Kyle Busch on the pit lane. And Eric Almirola into the tires. Could be a big turning point in the race because the caution's going to have to come out here, and does.
And it's out now.
Doc?
Kyle Busch on pit road while the caution waves. They will go ahead and clean the grill, take their time, get all 4 tires changed. They can take their time, get it packed full of fuel. Kyle said the car was still a little bit tight in the carousel, but way too free up off to be able to drive it. Major change in terms of air pressure, what Dave Rogers wanted to try to get him a little drive off.
So all of these cars on the pit lane before the caution came out. We'll check.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Are they? Some are going to be very close to that.
Dave?
And for Allmendinger, that is the thing that really makes a huge difference, whether he was on legally, because he was out of gas. One of the things these teams dealt with this weekend was a shortened practice. They didn't give us much time to calculate their fuel mileage, and there was some concern about how they would look in that department today, but now he's refired and gone.
That's a tough break, but I did see some cars have to make a pass down pit road. They got on pit road when it was closed, and the rule is if they keep going, they can maintain their spot where they blend in. I saw Jeff Burton and maybe a couple more.
All right, so what happened to Eric Almirola? This is from Jeff Gordon.
Oh, man, looked like something happened to that car.
Like a left front tire.
Yeah. Windshield deep into those tires. It took a left, didn't it?
He was running in 20th at the time, and yeah, something let go there. That was very odd.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one of those tracks you see a ton of brake heat, and that could have been a charcoal bead or something like that.
Yeah.
It's getting towards the end of a run on tires.
How ironic would it be that what could possibly keep Ambrose out is the teammate's car having a problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this was not a good break for Marcus Ambrose.
So Almirola, you see out of his car and walking away, but that 43 car with an unexpected hard left into the barrier and the caution flag out, just as a lot of the leaders were getting ready to make their green flag pit stop. What we were just talking about before it happened, right? So who got onto the pit road legally and who got there after it turned to the red?
See, everybody wanting to get to pit road before this caution comes out.
And the ruling is you've got to get to the pit-in scoring stripe before the light turns from green to red.
Yeah, you see, you make a commitment to this to pit road before you really know whether the caution has come out. Right here is that light. See, it's green right now, and everybody that's past that line is legal. If this light turns red when you get there, or yellow, right here you see it.
So Menards, Newman, Biffle, Burton, and Hamlin.
Looks like Hamlin made a move back on the racetrack. That at least saved him a few spots.
But all the other guys like Boyer and Truex and so on were all good to go with these stops. So that is going to shuffle Marcus Ambrose back 8 or 9 spots for this next restart if he pits here under the caution flag. And that changes everything, doesn't it?
It does definitely change it because Kyle Busch made his stop. He won't have to make another one.
Yep.
That was really kind of his main competition.
Well, the whole talk was that Ambrose is one that could make 3 stops only because he was able to pass.
Yeah, he
can find out if he can.
Yeah. He's going to have to now.
Yes.
Here they come to pit lane. Vince, you're first.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., they've not had much as far as expectations today, hoping for a top 15. Way too loose, forward and air pressure adjustment, Dave.
Johnson, 4 tires, no changes, and full of fuel. Mike.
Juan Pablo Montoya saying he's a little bit tight. They'll make a slight wedge adjustment and 4 tires and fuel, Doc.
Final stop for the dominant car today, Marcus Ambrose. They know he's going to be back in traffic, and they know the car is tight in traffic, so they've called for 1 round up on the track bar. Left side tires going on. There goes the round on the track bar. Right side tires going on. Getting completely full of fuel. They know he's tight in traffic when he gets to fuel. He's down on the way as he squeezes by the 48 car exiting pit road.
Montoya's crew gains him a spot on Ambrose.
So the running order greatly shuffled by a caution coming out just after green flag pit stops had begun here at Watkins Glen. And the dominant driver of the race, Marcus Ambrose, is going to be back a little bit in line after something went crazily wrong with his teammate's car, Eric Almirola, at a very high-speed part of the racetrack that threw him into the tire barriers. Fortunately, we've seen him out of the car and walk away okay. Backwards pit stops. The order here at Watkins Glen. Some have had an easier time of it than others. Beautiful 76-degree afternoon here at Watkins Glen, New York, as we get ready for the restart in today's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race. The green will wave with 27 laps to go as we check fresh off the wire, served by KFC. Focus on the day of the dominant driver, Marcus Ambrose. Led most of the laps, going for a 3rd consecutive win, but now finds himself back 15th, make it 14th in line for the restart after this caution came out before he made a green flag pit stop.
Okay, we're going to take what the day gives us, okay, mate? I think it's good to make a change now, and we'll just pick them off one by one, see how it ends up. That's exactly right, buddy. That's exactly right. You're going to have 30 laps to kick some more, so we're fine. Only one way to have fun, that's to win. We're going to do it. Yeah, simple.
Got a lot of work to do.
It is that, but I like my chances with him as much as anybody else in the field.
So, cars that did not make the scoring line on pit road before the pit was closed when the caution came out. Ryan Newman, A.J. Allmendinger, Paul Menard, and Greg Biffle. They'll go to the back of the line. You see Kyle Busch is now the leader. On the pit lane under green, then the caution came out. That's just how you want to play it.
Yeah, they played it perfect so far.
Montoya first off pit road in 13th, Ambrose 14th. This ought to be an interesting run down to turn 1. The first thing that's going to happen for Ambrose to get back to the front is he's going to have to pass Montoya.
Yeah, and that's a tall order in itself. Montoya looked like that he had a nice run on Casey Mears there going into the inner loop to maybe get one of those spots, but wasn't able to make it happen.
This is the first time Marcus Ambrose has been in any kind of dirty air, too, really.
He's got Jimmy Johnson hounding his back bumper.
You know, a lot of time here,
for the lead.
Pass for the lead.
Truex, 56. Kyle Busch, 18.
Oh, that's close right there.
High, Brad, tight part of the racetrack, too.
Yeah, Keselowski coming, just looking for somewhere to go.
Going to get interesting right here.
Oh, no contact there.
Wow.
Is there going to be a payback here? Keselowski and Truex now racing for second. Kyle hangs on to the lead. How Kyle and Truex didn't wreck either at the top of the S's or that contact at the inner loop, I don't know.
Yeah, you can just see it coming. I mean, you look like neither one of them were going to give, and that's a very, very treacherous, narrow part of the racetrack.
Kurt Busch passing Carl Edwards there, trying to get himself in the mix. Yeah, I would have never believed that Kyle could have gotten through there, taken the lead, and not made a lot more contact than that, opening the door even more for Keselowski. That was incredible driving.
And Ambrose still behind Montoya, who's still behind Casey Mears.
Yeah, they've gone nowhere so far in this. You know, things sometimes that make drivers and cars fast around the racetrack and putting down fast lap times, their car may not be quite as good where you're in a situation where you have to make passes, not just out braking someone, because right now everybody's got good tires and they're able to do that. So it makes it more difficult in these situations.
Montoya said earlier, if he peeks inside, He's going.
Yeah, he didn't peak all the way there because he could see just not getting it. His car's fast. That's kind of what I'm talking about, where your car is fast through the center of the corner where you make time. Well, you're not going to pass anybody right there unless they slip a little bit and you put your nose in there. You've got to have that drive off.
Well, trouble, Boris said. Turn 1. He'll drive it away. We stay green. Boris running 25th a second ago. Here's a look.
Just once again, we've seen this a number of times. Drivers trying to make a pass, get down the inside, carrying too much speed, start to wheel hop just a little bit.
At this point of the race, too, the front brakes are starting to give up a little bit, and the rear brakes kind of take over in that situation, and it makes it even worse, and that's something you got to really watch for late in this race.
And here are the three drivers that you talked about, Alan, that have been in the mix the last 2 years.
Yep. Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, and now Ambrose trapped way back in traffic. And Ambrose still, there he is, in 12th position. So let's go back and see that sequence again where Kyle Busch had to fight off Martin Truex for the race lead in a couple of very difficult spots on the racetrack to defend.
Yeah, this is getting to the inner loop right here, and to carry the speed that you need, he's forced to enter the grass, a little contact there, but not to, for your car not to slide carrying that much speed. Normally you need a lot more track than that.
I think you got to hand it to Brad Keselowski too. He made a really good move to grab second. He saw that developing, I'm sure, but he did a real good job to do that.
Mark Truex, you see there, behind Keselowski now. Went from racing Kyle Busch for the lead back to third place.
I have to think Kyle made a mistake somewhere to cause that side-by-side.
Safety do that to him. Because that's the way he races. Long way to go here, man. We'll run it back down.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, that's what they knew, that was very critical, that position, because it's so hard to pass, and when the opportunities come, you've got to pounce on them. I think Truex knew it. He was sticking it in there, but Kyle knew it also.
Truex is in that situation as we watch this battle. See Montoya finally able to get around Casey Mears. Ambrose is going to try to outbrake Casey Mears, which hasn't been happening here much, but see how far he can really drive it in. I was going to talk about Truex, the position he's in. If he could have got that lead and then been able to hold them off with that second victory, looking at the chase, that about assures him of that. But now he's back in third. He's looking at this race a little bit differently. Yeah, he wants to attack while he can, but he's not going to take any chances because he needs as many points as he possibly can today.
He's only 2 points as they run out of the top 10.
And as these laps wind off this scoreboard and Ambrose does not make any progress forward through the field, now their thinking has to begin to change, that they need a caution or two and another couple of restarts to try and help them get some spots.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alan, because that's where he can be most aggressive and make those things happen instead of trying. He doesn't have time to pick them off one by one now.
Brad Keselowski stalking Kyle Busch. Keselowski, who's finished second in this race the last 2 straight years. Kyle Busch, who's seen the lead slip away in the last laps, the last 2 straight years.
Hey, one thing that I'm seeing is that where they're going to have a hard time with Kyle Busch, he is so good up through the S's. He makes so much speed there, gets him up the back straightaway. You're not going to outbrake him into the inner loop, so you're going to have to figure out another place that you might be better and try to make the gain and possibly get that opportunity.
Getting to the late stages here at Watkins Glen. And a twist in this story with Ambrose, the dominant driver, trapped back in traffic, and now Kyle Busch, the race leader. Beautiful summertime in these parts. Watkins Glen, New York, Montour Falls, surrounding area. And a beautiful weekend for racing at the historic Watkins Glen Road Course, where the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series makes its once-a-year stop today. There's your leader, Kyle Busch. out in front with 18 laps to go. Time for unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with NASCAR Mobile 13 and unlimited talk, text, and data on the Sprint network. 5 different drivers have traded the lead 5 times in the race today. And that last lead change, a big one for Kyle Busch, who took it from Marcus Ambrose in an exchange of strategy and ill-timed caution flags, if you will. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app. Join the family with the Unlimited My Way plan, guaranteed for life and only from Sprint. Sprint.com/speed has all the details. Just joining us, Ambrose is dominated, but had not yet pitted under the green flag when Kyle Busch had, and a caution came out. And there's a spinner in the backdrop, Jeff Burton in the final corner. From 16th place, back now to 25th.
Looked like Casey ran him out of room.
He was definitely out of room for sure. I don't know if something may have happened before that Casey felt like he needed not to give Jeff Burton any more room than that.
No caution, and we stay under the green. And Jeff Burton tries to regroup. So there's Juan Pablo Montoya, first off the pit lane of the group that had not stopped under the green when the yellow came out. Montoya trying to advance. He's left Ambrose behind.
Yeah, he's been running faster lap times, too. He's been about the second quickest car on the racetrack. And able, like you said, make passes where Ambrose is just not. He's kind of stalled in this traffic.
So Montoya taking 9th spot away from Jamie McMurray. He is 8.7 seconds behind Kyle Busch and 2 cars ahead of Marcus Ambrose, who's led 51 of 74 laps in this race.
I'm wondering if they made, we heard him and the crew chief talking, if they made some changes on this car that, like I think Ambrose said, now's the time to try something if we're going to. And maybe those changes that they were looking at just hasn't made this car as good as what it was.
Well, he was talking to you earlier during the red flag in our in-race reporter segment about how as the track rubbered up and cars dropped liquid and things, of conditions changing and trying to stay up with that in your adjustments. Maybe they just didn't get it right. More on that from Doc?
Yeah, guys, a discussion between Ambrose and Blickensterk, the crew chief, was that they knew they were going to be back in traffic and knew their car got tight in traffic, so they preemptively decided to go up 1 round on the track bar to help the car. Now, he restarted back in 14th spot. Right now, he's running 11th. He hasn't made much progress, and he has only said 3 words. Car, terrible, traffic. The car's terrible traffic. In other words, he just can't drive it. So whatever they've done either has hurt the car or he can't go anywhere, but he's had the dominant car all day long. He's in trouble right now, though.
And, Doc, such a trend we've seen in the last few years in this sport, where a guy has a dominant car and leads a lot of laps and doesn't end up winning the race.
Yeah, this is a big swing, though. That car was just so dominant, and now he's just another car.
So Ambrose running back in 11th position and does not appear to be in any kind of position to be a factor in deciding this race. Other stories to update you on. Of course, we talked about Tony Stewart and him being on everyone's mind here at the racetrack after the leg injury he suffered in the short track sprint car race on Monday night out in Iowa. Tony undergoing 2 surgeries this week to begin the process of healing those injuries up. Dale's been in contact with Tony during the day today. Tony doing well. Thanks everyone for all the well wishes that he's received and says he's hoping to be able to be released from the hospital at the end of this race. We invite you to visit Chevy.com and learn more about the all-new Chevy Silverado. Strong for all the roads ahead. No question Tony's got a tough road ahead. And his driver, Max Pappas, aboard the 14 car today, has had a tough day. Was involved in a spin a little while ago. From 20th position, he's recovered to be running 19th at this point. Greg Zipadelli working on the team's plans for who will substitute for Stewart at Michigan next week and beyond.
Yeah, Greg told me the other day that he felt like he had some the first of the week to make that decision, and he was going to take all of that time to make sure that they made the right choice for next weekend.
There's your race leader, Kyle Busch.
We're good on fuel to the checkered. We are not good for a green light checkered. Save some fuel, save tires, save brakes. Let's just see this baby go green. Come on, go green.
Well, that's good information, though. Dave Rogers telling that because he does have a gap. He's got a 2-second lead, and the way to take advantage of that lead is to save some fuel, save some tires, and that's the advantage of having it and being in that position.
So the trick to it so far for this one, the 2 races Kyle Busch led the most laps. He didn't win. He hasn't led the most laps today and won't, but he's out in front now, trying to take home the trophy. And here at Watkins Glen, as we welcome you back to the Cheez-It 355 and remind you that you can go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Caution out with 12 laps to go. Show you why in a minute. First, an update on next weekend's motorsports schedule. The Nationwide Children's Hospital 200. First ever visit by the Nationwide Series to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. That's next Saturday at 2 Eastern on ESPN. Drag racing next weekend. The Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals in Brainerd. The qualifying runs you can see Saturday at 11 Eastern on ESPN 2. Then next Sunday, the Pure Michigan 400 for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at noon Eastern on ESPN. And the Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals Finals at 9 Eastern on ESPN 2. That's all next weekend. So what happened? Travis Kvapil had just come back out of the garage after being involved in that big crash up in the S's earlier that put us under the red flag and had the big cleanup.
Got the guardrail. Got it a couple times, actually pretty good. See the right front, or left front, I'm sorry, does a lot of damage. You can see it right here. This is after the impact. There goes the tire casing.
Which then rolls around the inner loop and gets collected by Alex Kennedy in the 19 car. So that erases a 2-second lead that Kyle Busch had built up over Brad Keselowski. You see cars at the back of the field pitting. A.J. Allmendinger, 17th place, the first one in. Dave, a good day gone bad for the 47, huh?
Yeah, he said we already messed ourselves up, so why don't we just come in, give me an adjustment, big track bar adjustment to make the car better for him and for tires. Interesting thing about these guys is that Brian Burns said they made this car extra strong after they tested with AJ, and he's probably going to drive it pretty hard here at the end, Mike.
And Denny Hamlin on pit road again. 4th stop of the day. Obviously not what they anticipated. They'll make changes, and he's away.
Paul Menard, 27, one of those who was trying to get to pit road when the caution came out, kind of penalized back for not making to that scoring line before the pit road was closed. Now trying to make up some of the lost track position. So as we look at the late laps, last 10 laps of this race, you've got Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski up front. Kyle Busch sitting there knowing that this race has gotten away from him the last couple of years. Brad Keselowski sitting there knowing that a win would be huge for him and his chances to make the chase, not just the points gain, but in case he slips out of that top 10 with a problem in the next couple of weeks, get him in the wild card hunt too.
Yeah, Brad needs a win, but he doesn't need to give away any points here either. But you know, I'm not sure how big of a chance he's going to take here on the restart.
Yeah, and I think Kyle Busch looked at 2 things. The restart's where he's vulnerable for the first couple of laps. If you're going to get him, you better get it quick. And he has to be thinking about the car that's going to line up on his bumper that he used up a while ago in taking that lead back, and that'd be Martin Truex. What can he expect from him?
I forgot about that.
Maybe
I'll guarantee you.
More take than give?
I would guarantee you.
Yeah. Well, Brad Keselowski and his team talking it over.
Way to fight back today, man, after that spin early. It's a good job. We got ourselves back in position. That's all we can ask for. So just be smart here, but race them hard. See what we can get. Yes, sir. You bet.
You can see just what I was talking about. I mean, they see the opportunity, but they also see a chance to lose points. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, those penalties earlier that Alan talked about, with the 16 and the 39 getting those penalties, put them way back, that hurt them points-wise tremendously. Biffle's able to get back to 20th spot now, but that was big for them.
A lot can change in these last 10 laps, huh?
Oh, gosh, yes.
So 31 cars on the lead lap. Make it 32. Boris said the free pass on this caution. 10 laps to go in this race. And the double wide charge down to turn 1 when it's time to get aggressive.
At least double wide.
Green flag.
Kurt Busch sliding it into the corner. Gathered it back up. Contact there.
Not going to be good.
Guesses this will get ugly. Casey Kane around. Junior hits him. And more spinning and crashing behind.
Yeah, I saw Casey sideways. That was a terrible place to be that way.
Yeah, there's just no room. We've talked about that earlier. No room up through there. And actually the contact from Dale Jr. probably made this less of a wreck than what was going to happen.
I was in the gas, he's in the gas. I don't know what I could have done. I didn't want to lift you up.
Well, a lot of troubles there for Junior, for last week's winner Casey Kane. Talked about the all take and less give.
Yep.
Drivers all racing for around the 13th position, charging up the hill at a very narrow and high-speed part of the track.
Yeah, I mean, the sense of urgency has really come up. See, I think Marcus Ambrose is actually back in that same group. We're all racing hard.
And even though there's asphalt there, the racing groove, you get outside of that lane and a half that's there, it is so slick that you have a hard time keeping control of your car.
Side by side as they started up in the S's, you see right here. This is where the pressure point was.
Oh, Ambrose got hit. Matt Kenseth, I think, nudged Ambrose and or Kane, maybe both of them.
I'm not sure that Dale Jr. actually didn't get into the back of them. I think it was stacked up further back.
And then the track is blocked there. You see how close those guardrails are to the side of the pavement. And then the jam up. See this.
You can see Kenseth come across there for sure and get into Casey Kane.
I think I'm with Andy there. I think Kenseth got hit from behind too.
Well, you can see just how narrow that racetrack is.
Yeah.
No runoff at all.
Good job, buddy. Good job. Stay right there.
It's hard to tell from that angle who hit who first.
Yeah, I can't tell if Junior got into the back of the doing, but you could see Kenseth's car wiggle and then him have to correct. And in correcting, that's going over to the right, which got him into the left rear of Casey Kane.
Well, that could have been a lot worse. Glad to see Casey walking away. We have seen in that part of the racetrack over the years some really nasty crashes. And fortunately, that one didn't turn out to be as bad as it could have been. I'll be very interested to hear some of the drivers' opinions on what triggered all that, because again, they're all charging up the hill. Somebody checked up somewhere and went wrong from there.
Yeah, more than anything else is racing in a very narrow part of the race, fast part of the racetrack. That's what they're inside of 10 laps, and these things are going to happen.
Yep. Dale Jr.'s car behind the wall in the garage area. See what they can do to get it back out, if they can.
Still not sure. I'm not sure that you didn't see Matt Kenseth get into the back of Marcus Ambrose. at about this same time. They're really racing each other hard. You can see right here they come up through these S's. You can see how far out Kenseth is.
You can see Ambrose sliding right there.
Yeah, maybe Ambrose had to check up just a little bit. That got Kenseth in the back of him.
Yeah.
It looked like the contact from Junior came after. And it was slight, but then right here was the big lick.
Yeah, I think that's a situation you're trying to put blame on someone. That's not, that's just racing in a very tight spot. And again, inside the last 10 laps, and everybody's trying to get everything that they can.
Well, what they've got is another mess to clean up, some more than others. And what Kyle Busch has got is another restart on his hands. He did a great job of getting away from Keselowski and Truex on that one.
Boy, that was textbook right there. He got away. He got the 2 and the 56 racing each other back there and allowed him to really get away.
Got some work to do on that 20, Dave. All right, get back with Dave in a minute as the Joe Gibbs Racing team goes to work on Matt Kenseth's car.
On, help pull on that rear. Be careful of sitting on the jack right there, Tate.
See what they can get out of the day. Matt Kenseth right now, only 27 points inside the top 10. Now he's got the 4 wins, so he's going to be in the chase, but
I don't know what he might be, I don't know if he's mad at Matt or not. I don't know what happened before we saw the wreck happen. Looks like he was delivering a message though.
Or was that message being delivered the other way with the brake pedal? I don't know. Vince?
You know, I was talking with crew chief Steve Letarte of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s team before the race today, and he was indicating that they knew this is not one of the strengths of their race team, but they were solidly in the top 10, 5th in the standings coming in. And he said, all I'm thinking about is how many points we're ahead of 11th place. He said, I just want to avoid disaster today. Things were going along according to plan, and then this happened. And what you see is this team furiously working to try to avoid disaster. Steve Letarte in there, and they're addressing the situation, just trying to get Dale Jr. out there because they know every single position and every single point matters with the way their car is positioned right now, Alan.
Now, right now, Vince, Dale Jr. is being shown in 32nd place. He can slip back to 34th. Or 33rd, depending on how things go.
Yeah, that's considered a disaster kind of. That's what they were not looking for, and that's what happens. That's why everybody is on pins and needles with this particular race, because we're going to have more than somewhere around 30 cars finish on the lead lap, and anything happens, you're going to lose a substantial amount of points.
We talked about all the cars that finish on the lead laps on these road courses, and it's a big number. Look at it. Average of 30 on the lead lap.
Yeah, that's about what we have now. We're trying to figure out whether it was Junior or Kenseth delivering the message. I think we've got something that might show it. As the cars are coming around under caution. See Junior passing a bunch of them. Looking for Matt Kenseth. They had to pass a few cars to get there.
Well, he was sitting there as they were coming up through the S's with the bird's eye view of exactly what happened, and looks like in his estimation that maybe the 20 could have avoided all of that.
Make for some interesting post-race comments, won't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, we talked about with 5 races to go until the chase, including this one, those people starting the day who were feeling the pressure in different groups. The pressure not to have a bad finish, the pressure to get a win, and so on. Look at this.
Yeah, the positions have changed.
Yeah, Brad's having a good day so far, but Jeff Gordon and a few of them, not so much.
Jeff Gordon involved in a crash earlier in the race. If you weren't with us, way back at lap 13, crashed off of the S's on the backstretch and is out there limping around 25 laps down in 38th place.
See now why getting that extra win really is insurance. Casey Kane's now fallen out of the top 10 in points.
Yep. That second win he picked up last Sunday at Pocono. Remember, if you're new to NASCAR, the top 10 in points make the championship run, the chase for the Sprint Cup, and then the next two drivers between 11th and 20th in points with wins and most wins. So having victories is important.
You need either a lot of points or a lot of wins, one of the two to feel good.
Yep.
And in Jimmy Johnson's case, got both.
And this cleanup is taking some laps away from Keselowski and Truex's opportunity to try and find a way around Kyle Busch. Montoya as well. Remind you that Sports Center is coming up next, including post-race coverage from here at Watkins Glen, the day's baseball, and all the rest. PGA Championship.
Big golf tournament not too far from here.
That's right. Marcus Ambrose, story of the day, started on pole, led 51 laps, was still on the racetrack needing a pit stop when the caution came out at lap 59 just after Kyle Busch had pitted under green. Kyle stayed out under the yellow, Marcus pitted, Kyle's the leader, Marcus restarted back in 14th and has made no progress since. So here we go with what will be 6 laps remaining in the race. Brad Keselowski to Kyle Busch's outside, Martin Truex Jr., Carl Edwards in the row behind him, and watch Pablo Montoya from 6th position, who's been on a charge since he was caught on the pit lane, just like Ambrose was earlier. Montoya in that red 42. Turned in the S's, same spot on the track. Caution's out. More cars involved.
Now, I was just about to say, watching him try to go up through there, he was really struggling with this race car. Looked like he might have got a little help while he was struggling.
He restarted 10th, and now he's crashed.
His car hasn't been good on any of these restarts, and it's kind of stacked things up. He's been right around where everything was that was going on in each of these restarts.
As getting down to that point of the race, he's trying to make something happen.
He's one that's always been so good on these restarts that we expect him to be up there passing, and he's actually the one that's kind of been holding things up a little bit.
And we talked about at the top of the day the pressure and the drivers feeling like the road course is their best chance to win.
Yeah.
Ambrose in command for so much of the day, and you can sure see the frustration written all over his face.
Absolutely.
And his actions there.
Yeah.
Well, he was involved in the contact in the last one going up the hill after the restart to the S's. And this time he got the worst of it.
Trying to make something happen on the outside, and they're all stacked up. He gets a little help, like you said, Dale, from it's like Max Pappas, but they're all jammed up. Look like the 29 was in the back of him.
Well, we talked about that groove being so narrow. There's just like a lane and a half. You get outside of that with the 2 tires, there's just no grip there. And you start pedaling the throttle as others are trying to go behind you, you find yourself in trouble.
14 car, Max Pappas.
He did. He slipped out of that groove, too. Then that's when he got the help.
And Pappas is sitting there with Kevin Harvick right on his bumper. He's got to go, and it's time to do that.
Brian Vickers with a pretty heavy contact with the guardrail also.
Still there. Inside lineable. Hold your line.
Max Pappas.
Great job, Max. Keep going, keep going. Good job.
I can see why he's frustrated. I mean, where this race went bad for the 9 team is when they didn't make that green flag stop, when a lot of guys were doing that around lap 59 and 60. They were waiting to make theirs, and then the caution came out and put them in a really bad position. Put them back in, 15th place, 14th place on the restart.
Yep.
He was just trying to make up all these spots, and it just wasn't going to happen for him.
Now, just before the restart, we caught this on Ambrose's radio.
I'm in trouble. What do you want me to do, mate? I need to know what up. Is it like a flat tire? Is it your steering wheel bent? What is it? I tell you, the rod spins out. I think the rear end's moving. Is there a shock fault or a track bar man or something like that?
You know, that could be something else that we're dealing with. We talked about how hard this track is on suspension parts, and the way those track bar mounts usually break, they start cracking and start moving, and he could have had that going on. And could explain why he was not as good as he was at the first part of the race.
Well, he did not start on pole position the last 2 years when he won. Today he started on pole, dominated, but has walked away in bitter frustration today at Watkins Glen. 2 incidents at that very tricky, high-speed, narrow, top-of-the-hill part of the S's here at Watkins Glen in the last laps. And still another run up through there yet to go, at least one more, as cleanup continues. And we work toward restarting this race again. Again, Kyle Busch executed a perfect restart.
Yeah, he's executing. I'm watching Brad Keselowski, and I'm trying to figure if Brad, can't imagine him not being up and ready. It's like he knows that he doesn't want to get in there and get pushed out down into turn 1, but he's back a little bit, and it's like he's trying to ensure himself that he can get a good run off of that corner and stay in second place. But it's holding everybody else up a little bit, and that's allowing Kyle to get away.
Yep. Going back and piecing together some things, Andy, on Ambrose, and if something was coming out of that race car that might have caused that problem.
Probably after the radio communication, they're trying to diagnose what might be the problem, and you see him aggressively working the car back and forth. It's really hard to pick it up, but it could be a little deflection, it looks like, in that rear end. Whatever it wasn't working. The car was not working like it had been earlier.
Yeah.
And you could tell even during that warm-up, he had some contact with that left rear tire from some of the hard racing they'd been doing it back in the pack.
Your best chance to win, a win that could possibly put you into the top 20 in points and into a wild card position and make your season by making the chase, and it all goes away. Circumstances and fate.
Yeah, it's so deflating and difficult. This sport brings on so many enough highs to keep you there, but those lows, you really have to kind of learn to get over those, and your expectations coming into a place that you've had a lot of success at, and when that opportunity is taken away, we saw the frustration that it can cause for a driver.
Let's talk about Kyle Busch. Earlier we heard the radio, let this race run green to the finish, please. And knowing it's a race that's gotten away from him in the last laps the last couple of years. You've been behind the wheel of these things before, leading in the late laps. Do the emotions come to play, and how do you manage them?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what you have to do, is manage those emotions and not make mistakes. That's the thing. Kyle knows that he has the best race car right now. He obviously believes and is confident in his ability, but he also knows that just any slip is going to open the door for one of these others to either get beside him or get to his rear bumper, and takes all of that away. So you have to manage that and focus on just doing your job. And this first corner is his biggest obstacle. If he can get through that cleanly, then he has the car and the ability to get away.
Doc, we heard earlier about they had fuel to the finish, but not for a green-white checker. We can hear Kyle working on that right now under these cautions.
Yeah, Dave Rogers keeps saying save fuel, save fuel. He had told him to save fuel, tire, and brakes. And how about it now? You got a good car for 4 laps. How about if you were to get a green-white checker, can you make it?
Well, it all depends on how long these cautions take. You know, we can go past the scheduled distance, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take to clean up the next stretch. So we've been in this position before. We'll see if we can get it done today.
How much do you flash back to what's happened to Kyle the last 2 years? You're leading late last year, the final lap, all the disappointment. Do you think about that, or does he keep that out of your mind?
No, I'm human. I think about it. You know, my head hurts right now. I'm just ready to get this race over with.
Oh, you can imagine what Kyle's thinking inside the car. 2 years in a row, Alan. He's come so close to have it go away in the final laps.
Yeah, what a great admission by Dave Rogers. How many people wouldn't admit that in that circumstance, right? They are human.
I think these situations, Andy, probably are harder on the crew chief because it's out of your hands. I mean, the driver knows, you know, and knows their abilities and things, but the crew chief, all he can do is sit there and keep your fingers crossed and hope.
I tell you, it is tough. You cannot believe how long it takes for these last few laps to unwind. I mean, it seems like an eternity.
Yeah. Well, the story of this race turned in Kyle Busch's favor and against Marcos Ambrose back when the caution came out at lap 59 when Kyle had pitted under green and Ambrose had not yet. They put Ambrose back in traffic. Eventually something went wrong with his car and he wound up crashing out of the race, Dave.
After leading 51 laps, Alan, and that has to be very frustrating. Describe your feelings right now, Marcus.
Yeah, just really disappointed for my Stanley team. You know, something was wrong with the car there and I just couldn't get going. I could feel it on the roll around lap, something had broken, but I just feel bad for guys who got caught up in all that mess because it's not the way we wanted our day to finish. But thank you to Stanley and Ford and everybody at Richard Petty Motorsports to give me a good shot to win today. We had a great fast car and it just wasn't our day.
The strategy didn't go your way. How disillusioned were you when you had to start in the middle of the pack?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, we restarted 10th or 11th, I think, there on that last one. And we had a chance to run well, but, you know, there's something wrong with the car and it's just the way it goes.
Marcus Ambrose out after a really good day, Alan.
Always gracious and always smiling, Dave. Like I talked about earlier, when he gets inside that race car, the seriousness and the aggressiveness comes out. You can just see the disappointment on his face and hear it in his voice there.
He's a class act the way he handles situations like that. That's very difficult, especially when you know this is your real opportunity with your race team to get a victory.
So coming to 2 laps to go and to the restart. 29 cars on the lead lap. Kyle Busch again with Brad Keselowski to his left. Martin Truex and Carl Edwards on his back bumper. And still Montoya floating back there in row number 3. There will be 2 laps to go in the race. This will not be a green-white checker as overtime is concerned because these are the last 2 scheduled laps of the race. Each of the last 2 times they've gone up the hill to the S's and had a problem after the restart. We'll see what happens here.
Keselowski has not gotten a great start the last 2 times. I think he's maybe learned something that can get him a chance to win this thing.
We'll see, but if I were Martin Truex, I'd be doing everything I can to try to anticipate Kyle Busch taking off and being on his bumper. That could get him in the 2nd spot with a chance to go after Kyle Busch here.
2 laps to go at Watkins Glen. And Keselowski for 2nd. Keselowski fights him off, but Kyle gets away.
That's a pretty good move for Keselowski because he was definitely out of that groove.
That was a power move right there. Yes, he intended to take that spot back away.
Montoya unable to do anything with Carl Edwards. But he has gotten by Clint Boyer.
Because I just closed a little bit of that gap that Kyle Busch pulled on that restart.
White flag here, one more button.
Final lap.
Hey, you marked everything out front.
We'll have one more run at him here up to the inner loop. I don't know if he can get to him or not.
Got a good run up the hill. Keselowski trying to close.
Can he get to that bumper?
If he can, he's going to use it.
He's there.
Pretty good run off the corner there by the 18.
Kyle's going to have to be perfect the last 2 corners.
Coming to the checkers, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, and Truex lurking if something happens.
One more shot to get to the bumper.
Try the outside. Almost spins himself out trying to get to the bumper. The one that got away comes back to Kyle Busch. He wins at Watkins Glen.
Good job, man. Great driving, Timmy. Great driving.
That was why.
He's right.
Great job, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it, y'all. Y'all do way too much for me.
Brad Keselowski kept him honest that last lap.
Did you see him have to back that car into that last corner to keep, I mean, he ran in there so hard trying to catch Kyle.
Yeah.
And he did a great job to save it himself.
Yeah, almost cost him second spot, but it was obviously worth the gamble to try to get there and get to the bumper.
Yeah.
Not sure he didn't touch him just a little bit, but there just wasn't enough. What a great race.
We've talked about so many places to make mistakes around this racetrack, and Kyle Busch had to be, he got, what, 3 restarts. He executed perfectly, and he had his hands full in that last lap. I think that's why it took so long for him to react.
He had to breathe. And if he makes one slight bobble those last 2 corners, he loses that race.
And that's what's so hard about leading these races on these road courses. You don't want to make that mistake of driving it in too hard. You want to give yourself that chance, but you're opening up the door for that driver to get to your bumper. That's just good stuff by both of them.
And we talked about emotions. Dave Rogers talking about we're human. We think about it. The ones that got away the last 2 years.
Yeah, these road course wins mean a lot to a driver and a crew chief because they're so hard to get.
They can erase those memories now.
Yeah, if anybody was deserving of a victory here, this man's giving it every shot for that to happen, and that was tremendous.
Now, Kyle's trying not to make a mistake. Brad Keselowski's throwing everything he can at him to try and get to him. And those last few corners were just fun.
You see, right here is where Kyle just does such a good job. It's flawless because if he gets in too hard, he leaves himself open. He got in there just hard enough. Brad was all over it.
I think Brad had ideas of going to Kyle's outside there, but he didn't have quite enough room. Then it was the time to try to hit him.
Or try and cross over.
Still on?
Yeah.
He did tap him.
Clear.
And Kyle was so smart that he was right in the middle of the racetrack that didn't really give him room for either side to make that happen.
That's good. Oh, that's neat.
The Las Vegas Showman taking a bow. Kyle will head to victory lane in a minute. Let's hear from the runner-up. Dave?
Well, Brad's asking a question for stats. Has a car ever finished at the same race 4 times in a row, second place? This is 3. I know you wanted the first position, but tell us about those final laps, especially battling for the win.
Well, you know, Kyle's car was really good after about 5 to 10 laps, and my car was really good for about 5 to 10 laps. So, you know, if that last run would have been about 5 laps, I think I could have got him, but it was only 2 or 3. But Kyle did a great job with his restarts, and then, you know, it's just I almost had him down here, but I was going to have to wreck him to do it, and I've had enough drama. I didn't need any more drama with the Miller Lite Ford Fusion, but this car was fast, and I was really proud of the guys. I got some trouble early with the spin with McMurray, and that was my fault. I just got a little wheel hob where the back was jumping. I just couldn't get back control of it, but still a great race, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
He moves up 4 spots in the championship, up to 8th. Vince?
And Martin Truex Jr. also moved up 4 points in the championship standings to 10th. And I know you're a little dissatisfied because you wanted to win and you came in here, but it was a big day for you guys as a whole from a team perspective. How would you assess it?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, you know, it was a good weekend. So much speed in practice, and then, you know, today the weather was a little bit different. I knew the track would be a little bit different, and, man, we had so much speed on the short run. Kyle's got no tires left. We had a lot of speed on the short run, almost got the lead there on that last, after we put that last set of tires on, we almost got the lead. And just couldn't run after that, you know, just couldn't quite run with them after all those restarts, all those heat cycles on the tires. They were both the 2 and the 18 were just a tick better than we were on the longer runs and on the older build-up air pressure. So we just missed it a little bit. I'm so proud of my guys for the cars they built, everybody back at the shop for the great race cars they built for us here this weekend. And a couple more to go. Just have to keep chipping away at it.
Martin Truex Jr., 3rd today. Alan?
Vince, thanks. You heard Kyle Busch limping that car around to victory lane after tearing the right rear tire off it in the burnouts. Those restarts, those tires served Kyle Busch very well. And our Goodyear Superior performer of today's race is the winner, Kyle Busch. 3 times he had to get away from Brad and Martin and Carl, and he did it.
You found out a new way to do a burnout too, didn't you? Great job today.
He's made it there. We go to Pennzoil Victory Lane and hear from the winner.
Samantha, his wife, comes in to give him a big hug and a kiss. Oh my gosh. And she knows, she told me how difficult this was a year ago. 2 years in a row, he had led the most laps, only to see it go away in the final laps. And today, Kyle, given the history here, how much were you holding your breath and watching your mirror in that final lap?
Too much. You know, my car wasn't turning as good as it needed to on cold tires, so I was really having to muscle it and try to get it around there as best I could. But, man, can't say enough about M&M's, everybody from M&M's. All our M&M's associates everywhere across the world, we appreciate your support. It's awesome to be back in victory lane with your colors. And thank Interstate Batteries, Norm Miller. This Toyota Camry was awesome today, just fun to drive. Not quite as good as it needed to be. I think we could make it better, but, you know, I'm always a perfectionist, so I always want to be better. But can't say enough about Sprint. We appreciate them, Monster Energy, and the fans, too. I mean, the fans on TV, the fans here today. Great turnout. Great job by Watkins Glen International here today.
Incredible crowd, and what a show they got. Let's talk a little bit about some of the gremlins you dodged, the bullets. You had grass on the grill, the temperature went up. But with 25 laps to go, to quote our Dale Jarrett, an incredible job of driving by Kyle Busch not to lose the car when you and Martin Truex were side by side in the S's and the interloop. How tough was it to hang on?
Well, I knew that I needed to just keep position on them. I figured that if anybody got out front, it might be their race, you know, so I was just muscling as hard as I could to keep at least side by side with him and figured I could outbrake him getting into the interloop. And when he broke at the same place I did, I'm like, well, this is going to be interesting, you know, who's going to give? And I ran a little wide and touched some grass and then came back, and when I did, it kind of moved him out of my way. And I was able to get through there, you know, so that kept the lead for us. And the car was really good on long runs. Just felt like I could inch away the more laps we put on it. And just wasn't quite as good as it needed to be on a short run, but just long enough here today. That was good.
Great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kyle Busch, the 3rd time as a charm. 2 years in a row, he leads the most laps. Couldn't get the checkered flag to victory lane. And today, Alan, in the final laps, he hangs on and a daring restart there and holds off Brad Keselowski.
Well, Doc, Kyle Busch's win, one headline of the day. Marcus Ambrose dominating and not winning another, a third. The impact of this race on the championship standings.
Yeah, big points today for Brad Keselowski.
See these guys just outside. Kurt Busch make another run at it. Jeff Gordon probably didn't lose as many points as he thought he may here, so still in it. See Newman 20 back that win.
And now 4 races to go until they determine the field that'll compete for the championship. Final thought on the day?
Wow. I tell you, Kyle Busch is a wheel man.
Yeah, he really is. Incredible job. You know, as I look down the list, A.J. Allmendinger had a great day. Looked like it was going bad. Able to come back and get a top 10. Good job for that driver and team.
And we move on from here at Watkins Glen to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course next Saturday for the NASCAR Nationwide Series and the Michigan International Speedway next Sunday for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Sports Center is next here at Watkins Glen today before a packed house on a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon. The Las Vegas native Kyle Busch put on the biggest show and took the big bow at the end of the day. Kyle Busch, your winner today here at the Glen.